Hello everyone, I'm Alan, also known as McLaren 2009, and today I'm back playing Derail Valley. I'm going to pick up where I left off on Monday with these 3 jobs, all going to the machine factory. What I did last time was I went through kind of like a lot of detail into how I specifically play Derail Valley. But this time, I'm not going to go into nearly that much detail. I'm mostly going to get back to what I was doing before, where I just make the deliveries and just kind of talk about random things this time around. But to give you an overview of what I've got attached to me at the moment, I have intermodal containers filled with clothes and stuff like that. I think it's mostly clothes, actually. Yeah, apparel. This is also apparel. Yeah, it's all clothes. Then back here, we have small intermodal containers filled with acetylene. Acetylene's a pretty volatile, hazardous material. It's used as like a fuel gas for welding, cutting, burning. It has a lot of industrial applications. And then from a chemical standpoint, it's triple bonded carbon, so anything that has a triple bond doesn't like keeping the triple bond if it has a choice. So it basically reacts with like anything and everything. It's some crazy stuff. In fact, just the way that acetylene is stored, it's not shown in the game because there would be no point. You can't open the box, so there more than likely is not a modeled acetylene tank in here. But in real life, the way that acetylene is stored, they're in these little like round gas cylinders, but they have like this honeycomb grid that's, I want to say, butane that there's a butane in the honeycomb, and the butane is like liquid, and then the acetylene is kind of like in there, but the honeycomb grid and the butane make it so that it's stable and the cylinder doesn't just randomly turn into a rocket. And then last but certainly not least, we have a logistics hull of car haulers. Oh, actually, not exactly last. You go back here, and I'm bringing the caboose along because, why not? So, yeah, we have a lot of clothes, some acetylene, a couple of car haulers, and a caboose. Not really anything crazy this time around. Why is this messed up? I should still be able to see that. Okay, good. Alright, so now that we've explained what cargo we've got, let's go turn on the locomotives. And while we're at it, we'll also set up the remote. Alright, as you can see, it's not currently paired to anything because I logged off the game. What's going to be interesting is going to be pulling out of here. While none of this cargo is particularly heavy or hard to deal with, we still got to go up that hill right there. So I'm fairly confident that since this load isn't too heavy, I should have enough of a lead before I get to that corner over there that I can get a running start that I shouldn't stall on the mountain. Ultimately, this should be fine. Alright, let's check our locomotive. Well, at least I've got that going for me. Alright. I'm thinking this might have something to do with why the couplers always get messed up. There's something getting lost in translation between rendering the model and making it, like, real. Not important. Alright, so hop up here onto the deck, pair this with this, release the train brake, apply the independent brake, and we'll leave it out of, or we'll leave it in neutral for now. Alright. We're enjoying the fact that we can still phase through walls and all of existence, because that's going to go away when the simulator update comes out. The only way we'll be able to clip through the wall is if we derailed the train and broke it. Alright, so now we look over here at the front, and as of this exact moment, the rear locomotive is connected to the front locomotive. Keep that in mind because it will be on the test. Alright. So, let's go up here. Obviously, I just kind of like abruptly ended my stream last time when I just got over the 2-hour mark. Basically, I'd been talking like nonstop since I decided I was going to do like a tutorial of sorts. So I got to this point and I was just like, you know what, I'm going to call it here. Because normally when I get done with whatever I'm doing, I want to take my map with me. But as you can see, I did not take my map with me. Alright, so clip through reality real quick. Turn on the engine. That actually is a real system. It would be in a different place, but once you set the real one to like run, or like you'd set it to start first, then you would go back here, prime it, and start it. And then after it's running, or after it's already started and idling, you would go in here and set it to run instead. Alright, and we look at our pipe. Pressure's working like it's supposed to. It'll be so cool when this gets updated with Simulator, because then there will actually be a pipe and cylinder gauge and a reservoir gauge. On one hand, you kinda, or at least I kinda wish it would have the equalizing reservoir with the main reservoir, but it's not the end of the world. It doesn't have to be a perfect simulation by any means. So, now you're probably wondering, well, how do we get moving? Well, as I kind of touched on in the past, or in the last video, what you want to do is throttle up, and then ideally you would wait for the ammeter to go up saying there's power going to the traction motors, but since Simulator hasn't come out yet, we don't have traction motors. or a working amateur. So, since we don't have it, we make do with what we've got. So you throttle up, see that the tachometer's going up, so the power's going to the wheels. Release the independent brake, and go forth and conquer. Really simple process. But the reason that you go through all of that trouble is because if we did it on this hill, like I did last week, I want to say, you'll find out that if you don't throttle up and just release the independent brake, you'll start rolling backwards. And then when you throttle up, you have to have like a improvised, horribly managed engine brake where you have to counteract rolling backwards and start pushing forward. So if you don't want to have to deal with that, set the brake first, throttle up, release the brake. But how much throttle that you use depends entirely on how much weight you have. If you have like nothing, like say you're just two empty, or you're just two locomotives with no cargo, you can probably put it on like notch 1, release the brake, and you'll take off like a rocket. With like normal cargo, like say you just have just the clothing cars we got back there, if you have just that, you can probably pull it off with like notch 2 or 3. Well, 3 would probably be more so if you're like heavy. And then if you're like really heavy, you might need to go as high as like 4 or 5. Just starting out. But you have to do that extremely carefully. Like, don't just go from like idle to 5 at like the drop of a hat. That is going to end horribly. You are going to blow out your traction motors. And, as we've already seen in the update videos, they're going to include that in the update. They're going to make it a lot easier to overheat the traction motors. So, accelerate carefully. Because we're going to lose the engine temp gauge, and instead they're going to replace it with the traction motor temp gauge. Now, it is worth noting that the engine can still overheat, but it's extremely hard to do it. More than likely, the thing you're going to overheat first will be the traction motors. And it's actually really cool to me to learn more stuff about trains and locomotives. Just all of this stuff in general is extremely fascinating to me. Because in real life, the only thing I ever had the pleasure of working on have been the cars. I haven't gotten to work on locomotives, so anything that I learn about these is just really exciting to me. It makes it really interesting to just learn more and figure out how this stuff works. Because that's kind of like a thing about me specifically. I really enjoy knowing how something works. Like, even though I didn't like the company that I worked for, when I was in the factory making train cars, I really liked my job. I liked the fact that I had enough time and experience with the company that I kind of became like this universal fill-in, if you will. And what that means is if anybody called in sick or didn't show up that day for whatever reason, we still need that job done on the assembly line. So I would go from my originally assigned position, and I would just be sitting in that position unless I'm not needed elsewhere. And I'd be waiting for a couple of minutes after my shift starts, and I'd be waiting to see if one of the managers approaches me and tells me, "Hey, you're needed in this building at this position, so head over there." And if they don't do that, then I just stay and do that specific job. But if I am needed elsewhere, then I would go to that other position and do that job. And then by shifting around in the factory and doing lots of different jobs in different places, I started to learn a lot more about how the cars are built and how they function. And it was just like the coolest thing to me, because I can look at like the underside of those flat cars and I can go off on like tangents talking about the little brackets that are holding up the guide rods, about how the air pipe's built, all of that stuff. I know because I got to work with it. Like, starting out, I was just in what we called the Hulk position. And in the Hulk position, we get the, what you basically just call a Hulk, or the center sill for the type of car that line was making. At the time when I got hired on, we were still making coal gondolas. But just the regular gondolas with like the round bottom, not the triple hopper opening bottom ones. These were the sealed ones, if you will. And what you do in the Hulk position is, well, the first Hulk position cuts off the plates that hold up the draft gears, which is like a spring mechanism that sits behind the coupler knuckle and allows it to take the impact of coupling. Well, the cars were only supposed to last for like 10 years, give or take. So when that particular order, we were rebuilding old cars. And basically what that means is we get the old ones that have been scrapped and stripped all the way down to just the center sill and draft gears. We take off all of the old brackets, inspect the sill itself to make sure that it's still serviceable. Then you can grind and blast the rust off of it, slap on some new components, replace the draft gears, replace the trucks, and then everything past that is all new. But in the position that I started in, the second Hulk position, it was where we took like these little like pneumatic bowl grinders, ground off the rust in specific patches where we had these fit up jigs so that we could weld the brackets, the very same types of brackets that you see modeled in this game. And we would weld those on both ends of the bracket, both inside and outside of the bracket itself, and then we're golden. Well, that position, it's not exactly like a sensitive position. There's not a whole lot you can mess up. Those levers and guide rods and all of that fun stuff, those things are very light. So as long as you don't have any like porosity, glaringly obvious weld defects, these aren't exactly highly scrutinized joints. There's not a whole lot you can mess up. So, being somebody that's just fresh out of school for learning how to weld, that's a good place to start. Like, it's not under too much scrutiny. The other things, like when you start doing actually load-bearing structural welds, those, they generally want to put people that have proven experience in those positions. So, for me specifically, when it got to the point when I started going around the entire factory, both lines, every building that we had, and just doing like everybody's jobs, it kind of showed me that I have that experience that I can start doing more sensitive things. But it was really cool because as I was going to more places on even just the first line that I started on, which was where we were doing like the large high volume orders, even just going to different positions on that line was awesome because I got to see what gets attached to the things that I'm putting on the car at this specific location. So now when I don't get called out to go to another position and I stay in my original position, if somebody new gets hired on and I'm showing them how to do that job, it used to be when I started out, you would just explain that, okay, you put this thing up here, it's like you grind these spots here, 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 and here, and then you put this thing on, put these things on, tack here, take this thing off, weld here, 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 so on and so forth, and then you're done. Put the thing up on the transfer table, move it over to the line, raise it up in the air, and we're done. Wait for the line to move and we get the next car. But when I had more time in, I got to the point where I could start explaining that, oh yeah, you put this thing on right here, and the reason that we do that is because 10 positions down the line, they're going to put this thing through here, pin it, put a pin in it, lock it in place with a cotter pin, bend the cotter keys, and then that's going to actuate the brakes for the car. This is linking the levers that apply the brakes on the two trucks on either end of the car. And I started just learning more about what my job, or what the factory as a whole was doing by being exposed to more things in more positions on the line. And that was like the coolest thing to me. Like, it was awesome to me that I'm able to go into something like Derail Valley, of all things, and look at the simulated models of train cars back there, and then like crouch down using the joystick because I'm lazy and play this seated because I can play it for hours on end without getting sick. So I just play sitting down so it's more comfortable. Well, I can crouch down, go underneath the cars in the game, and I can point at the little brackets and things that are holding those rods in place, and then it's like, yeah, I've actually worked on these specific things in real life. And that's like the coolest thing. So then at the end of last year, when I decided that I was going to apply to work for the railroad in real life, I started playing Train Sim World a lot, and then I got back into this. Frankly, I actually like this one a lot more than Train Sim World. On one hand, it's partially because this is more immersive, being a VR game. But on the other hand, to be perfectly honest, Train Sim World is kind of lacking at times. Especially since I specifically enjoy the freight missions, because I don't like the stress of the strict timetable with the passenger jobs. But that's whatever. And the passenger jobs in that, not the passenger jobs are fine. The freight jobs leave a little bit to be desired. But that's a thing for me to complain about when I'm streaming Train Sim World. Although, given the amount of time that I spend complaining about it, I think it's safe to assume that never in my career as a streamer will I ever be sponsored by Dovetail Games. If anything, instead of a sponsorship, they're going to put a bounty on my head and send an assassin. But that's a thing for another day. Bottom line is, I really like this one. And I've definitely more than doubled my playtime in Derail Valley since I decided that I want to go work for the railroad. But that's not to say that this is like a perfect representation, because it's not. But it's really cool to me specifically because I can put on my VR headset and I can walk around in what looks like a locomotive. And then I can compare like this console here to the console in like Train Sim World and be like, okay, this is approximately what the controls are supposed to look like in a locomotive. It doesn't necessarily behave the way that it's supposed to, but it looks right and it behaves well enough to give you an idea of what it looks and feels like to drive a train. And then, since my background is with the cars themselves and not the locomotives, it's really awesome to me that I can walk around in the yard, look at all of the different types of cars that are modeled in the game, and see how they measure up compared to the things that I've really worked on. And it's just like the coolest thing to me. Although, admittedly, it is pretty cool when I do play Train Sim World specifically. And I absolutely had to get the Horseshoe Curve DLC, because the place that I applied to work in real life is on the Horseshoe Curve. So when you're doing like the coal missions, and you deal with the big gray gondola cars. When you're walking around in the game world in there, I'm literally walking up to all of the cars. Like, I have built these specific cars in real life. All of these components, I have put them on at some point or another. And then I'm looking at the model in the game, and I'm just like, oh, they're missing the white sticker that should be over here on the right-hand side as you're facing the wall. There's a white sticker that tells you what factory it was made in. And Dovetail Games does not have that sticker on their model. But I know that sticker's there because, well, I didn't do paint and decal, but I've had to remove those stickers before. You just use a little disc sander, but it's like you use a razor, spatula if you're a spatula, or putty knife if you're lucky, or if you're not lucky, disc sander. I've removed those stickers before, but the bottom line is I know that sticker is supposed to be there because I was in the factory that made those cars. And that was really cool to me. So when I go into this game, and when I was up at the coal mine last week, I was looking at the coal cars that Derail Valley has, and then I was explaining that the ones that I worked on that are close to those were triple hoppers, not quad hoppers. Then somebody else joined in on my stream and explained that you see a lot of the quad hoppers on the real railroad, and I completely understand that. It's just the ones that I specifically worked on were triples, not quad. But not important. Bottom line is, I got to look at the empty cars specifically, and I was like teleporting, like bouncing all around the cars, like looking at all the different components, and then I was like comparing it to the real things that I've worked on, and how, like, yeah, there would be a lever right here that releases this. You climb up in here, and then you look down there, and you realize, like, all right, this thing right here is what we call the center sill. There's actually this angled platform right here, so the coal doesn't get stuck on the top of the sill, and it goes down the chutes on either side. So it really does look like that. And then there's this thing that we call the K-frame that's welded in here, and then it's kind of like the lateral supports to stop the car from like twisting and falling apart. It like holds it in place. And it's like all of these things, I have worked on them in real life. And it was like the coolest thing because I have that experience. And with that experience, I really should like exclusively do like the mines to steel mill runs instead of the harbor runs. But I kind of have fun with these ones because the stuff I get at the harbor is a lot of like the hazmat stuff, and you need licenses for hazmat stuff. So I kind of want to do those. And because in real life I have an interest in hazmat and the environment specifically, so naturally I like those things. Okay, just had to make sure that I still have... Put that away. No, I had to make sure that I still had all three of my jobs, because the previous time when I went past City Southwest, the game just randomly moved one of my jobs, and I wasn't cool with that. But it's whatever. Need a drink real quick. always gotta keep a close eye on the readout for my microphone, because the last couple of weeks I've been having like some weird problems where it stopped picking up my microphone. Did I open the window? Alright, whatever. It's not important. Apparently, in the process of like lifting up my headset to get a drink, I guess I opened up the window. It is what it is. But it's kind of cool that with this specific load, I wanted to get into it, but I never got around to transferring to carrying intermodal containers in real life, but I wanted to. Like, rail containers are cool, but the ones that I really wanted to get into were the smaller shipping containers that come in and out of the ports. Like, those are 53-foot containers, so they're the same length as a dry van for a regular tractor trailer. And those are cool, but I wanted to do the ocean containers because I have a card that allows me to enter the ports and harbors, and I kind of wanted to use it. And since it's connected to my hazmat endorsement, I would prefer to have the opportunity to use both of those given the chance. But even though I have not gotten to haul intermodal containers, I know a couple of things about them. Like, I know that those containers, pretty much all of them, are way heavier than normal dry vans. And then this cargo specifically, I actually do have experience with. And it was funny because, like, a few years back, I was watching a video. It was back when Markiplier was on like a simulator kick where he was like playing every kind of simulator he could find, and he specifically played American Truck Simulator. And this was before I actually started working as a truck driver. This was back when I was just in school learning to drive trucks. Hadn't actually done the job yet up to that point, but he did like a mission where he had to haul the base of a windmill. That's pretty heavy. And then, like, immediately after it, after he finally got it parked at the rail yard in the game, he then did a mission where he was hauling clothes in a normal dry van. And he made some comment like, along the lines of, how do I have a windmill's worth of clothing? And now, fast forward another year or so, and I've actually hauled a couple clothes deliveries, and it was like something stupid. Like, I was hauling like leggings for Ross. And not even kidding, that is 45,000 pounds of leggings. Those thin things that everybody loves when their wife or girlfriend wears. Those things are heavy. and you need a lot of them. So when he's asking about how do I have a windmill's worth of clothing, I have hauled a windmill's worth of clothing in real life. So when I was hooking up these loads on Monday, when I was doing my tutorial thing, when I saw that the clothing containers were the heaviest ones, I'm just like, yeah, that tracks. Clothes absolutely are that heavy. Like, it was the weirdest thing to me that as a truck driver, there were multiple times when I would be hauling something that every part of me says, this should be extremely heavy, and then it just isn't. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where it's like, oh, this should be extremely light, and it isn't. And it is like the craziest thing. Like, specifically what I'm talking about is with the things that I thought would be heavy but aren't. I was hauling appliances, like pallets with it was more so like cooking appliances, so not refrigerators. It was like ovens, stoves, dishwashers, stuff like that. I'm sitting there like, oh, this is going to be insanely heavy, and then I look at the BOL and it's just like, what do you mean it's only 16,000 pounds? I can pretty much have the tandem axles wherever the hell I feel like it. And then you're like, alright, I guess ovens are light, apparently. And then you pick up the clothing orders, and then you're like, oh, when you get like, when your grandparents give you like pajamas at Christmas or something like that, you're like, those are always like in these little like frail, light packages that you have to worry about cat crushing it and all that. And then you're like, this is extremely light. So even though there's a truckload of it, it can't be that heavy, right? And then you look at the BOL and it's like 50,000 pounds, and you're just like, dear God! The really weird one was one time I was hauling, not even kidding, an entire truck filled with nothing but fruit snacks for General Mills. Just straight fruit snacks. I go to the cat scale to make sure my load's balanced, and imagine my surprise when I find out that they did the absolute worst possible job of loading that trailer. I hated going to that warehouse because it took 10 times of moving the axles to get my weight legal. And then you look at the bill of lading, and I've got just under 47,000 pounds of fruit snacks. Just boxes of fruit snacks. And after the 10th time, and I finally got the axles in the right position so that my weight's legal to go down the road, I'm sitting there like complaining to my company, like, how many fruit snacks? It's like, how many Scooby-Doo gummies does it take to fill up a 53-foot trailer? I was not having a good day that day, but it was just crazy. Like, exactly how many boxes makes up 47,000 pounds of fruit snacks? It was just completely mind-blowing, and that barely even scratches the surface. So yeah, if you think you know what's going on with like cargo and all that fun stuff, you probably don't. Let me get a drink real quick. And we are coming up on the machine factory, so I need to get an idea of where my logistics mission is going. B6S. Of course it is. Matter of fact, let's just put that down here. Now, the thing that's going to be interesting about this is a logistics mission that is a storage track. There are maybe 3 storage tracks at the machine factory. So there's a really good chance there is something else sitting on that track. And since I've been here a lot lately, 6S is the smallest track. And car haulers are long. So this could be an interesting adventure. Let's hit the horn real quick, because why not? And we should have enough momentum to get around this corner. Or maybe we don't. Alright, I need my remote. Because this, we need to go that way. Alright, we are losing speed. So let's just hop off, teleport over here. Huh, actually, 6S is empty. Alright, so what we're going to do... Otherwise, I would have to pull through and back up. So instead of doing it that way, I'm just going to pull through the track and just dump off the car haulers at the end. Although this creates another problem, but we'll deal with that in a second. Basically, I decided to bring my caboose with me. And the caboose is currently at the end of car haulers. Yeah, I'm playing a very dangerous game by flying in here at a blistering 14 kilometers an hour. As you can see, the cars are not enjoying this process at all. But this is several hours late, so definitely not getting a time bonus. If I remember correctly, it was like 24 minutes, and probably getting close to like 200 minutes at this point. Basically, I was very long-winded with my improvised tutorial, so nothing about this has been fast. But as I've said over and over and over again, I believe wholeheartedly in the idea that slow is smooth, smooth is fast. It takes less time to do it slow and do it right than it does to fix doing something again because you rushed, cut corners, and messed something up. It will do it. You'll do it way faster and better if you take your time. Alright, we gotta speed up a little bit. Because clearly my locomotives hit a wall at the other end of the yard. Now, more than likely, I might actually be able to stop it with the caboose in the lane still. Because depending on where this sign is... Let's just dump this off. Alright. Oh yeah, there was another car length in there. It would have worked out just fine, but I'm not going to worry about it because after I get done playing with all of these, I'm probably going to clear the caboose. Even though, more than likely, I'm going to slap it onto the back of whatever I pull out of here with. Because the caboose is really useful to have. It's just very important to make sure you put it in the right place. Oh yeah. It was supposed to be in 42 minutes. It took 146 minutes. Anything going my way? Alright, so the tractors and empty containers. That's what we've got to deal with. Alright. We need... Yeah, acetylene is in the back. So C4 and C3. That makes sense. Alright. So, thing is, currently aligned with B, we need to be in C. And... Alright, so we need to be set up for 4. Alright. Throttle up. Kick off the independent. And pull forward. And now we need to be at this switch right here. And the last car has to pass this point. Again. And really, I can't even say it, like... makes sense because that's 6 cars. This is 7 cars. Okay. But the bottom line is the slightly smaller one is going on the shorter track. So it works. And then the saving grace for this whole thing is we're going to have to swing by the military base, because that's the best way to turn around the locomotives with this Y junction right here. So I have to look at the military base to see if it has anything going back to the harbor. Actually, we can get an idea. I got a feeling it does not have anything going back to the harbor. Unless those flat cars are getting loaded with tanks, they're probably not going to the harbor. So, sad. Alrighty. Just one car length past the switch. Apply the train brake, apply the independent. Kick off the train brake, pop it in reverse, throttle up, kick off the independent. You gotta be careful, because basically both ends of the machine factory are on a hill. So that thing about starting on a hill, you're gonna get experience with it if you roll too far. Alright, so all the switches are aligned into 4. Alright. So, back up into this lane. And then all we gotta do is get the last acetylene car past this sign, and then we can turn in this job. And then the good news is we only have to pull the clothing containers forward a little bit to get them past that switch, and then we shove them back onto this track, and all is right in the world. And we can get out of here and move on with life. Oh, you know what it is? The tractors aren't even loaded yet. We gotta load the tractors, and then we can get them out of here. Are the medical containers at least here? Yeah. That's these right here. Yeah, and I've been talking about it a lot in my streams of Derail Valley. I have seen refrigerated containers in real life, but I have never seen one configured like this. Like, all of the ones that I've seen that are refrigerated have like the have like a slightly thinner reefer unit attached to the end. But I've never seen one built into the container. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually did, in fact, do it that way, because it does make sense, but at the same time, you're also losing this much space in the container of where you can shove stuff. And it's even weirder based on the fact that these are heavily insulated. Like, it's not just like this container is just straight steel walls. Not particularly thick, but just steel walls. These have padding to make them more resistant to changing temperature. Oh. Stop. Okay, are we too far? No, we aren't. Good news, everyone. Alright. So, containers are in place. Let's run over here, turn this in. Minutes longer than it was supposed to be. Alright, where is that tractor job? Yeah, see, we don't even have the tractors yet. We have to load the tractors. I mean, the good news is all the cars are already assembled, so that's SL9. So please be this one. Well, it's not that one. It's those. Alright. That's how you want to play it. That's how we'll do it. Alright. Now we gotta be past this switch over here so that we can shove these cars onto the adjacent track. If we can even move. I'm waiting for one of the cars to just like pop off. It'll be both funny and infuriating simultaneously. It's going to be great. I mean, at least the good news is, by putting them all the way back there, they're in no danger of fouling the switch. Why did that not look right? It's just me losing my mind. It's no big deal. Happens all the time. Okay. Pop the switch. Put it in reverse. Throttle up. And there we see a example of if you have to counteract which way it's currently going by slowing it down and pushing it back in the opposite direction. Where if I didn't hit the throttle like then and there, it would have started rolling forward instead of backwards, because at least one of these switches is messed up to the point that if you hit it, if you're going too fast, it'll break your car. If you're going too slow, it'll stop you and make you start rolling the opposite direction. It is extremely annoying. But I'm pressing the magic I believe button, and I feel confident that that will be fixed when Simulator comes out. See what I mean? It's currently going 2 meters per second, or not 2 meters per second, 2 kilometers per hour in the opposite direction. Despite what momentum and all of that we have going this way, it wants to go that way. On flat ground. That is not what should be happening right now. Yet it is what is happening right now. So, it's whatever. Alright, the sign, you can see it right there underneath the car. So all we gotta do is just get it past this sign, and then we're golden. So, hit the train brake, hit the independent brake, release the train brake, set it to go forward. Alright. Alright, it's currently in a better position. So we've got that going for us, which is nice. Alright, now let's run over here, turn this in, and we'll get a feel for what's going on. Alright, job complete. Nothing. Alright, can we load the car haulers? No, we can't. One drop off. Alright, so easily the best option is to load the tractors. Not looking forward to it, but it is what it is. Alright, so we got the shunting job. It's on C2S, it needs to go to C1, and then it needs to go to B2. Alright, so let's make it happen. But first and foremost, let's go over here and take a look at the military base station office and see if we've got anything going anywhere cool. We do not. Alright, we're on our own. Alright, so we gotta go forward, flip this switch, flip this switch, not go that fast. Oh, didn't even look at that. It's okay, there'll be time. Alright, slam on the brakes. Pop it into reverse. And for the sake of argument, let's go look at our coupling mechanism. It's almost as if I've had this happen a million times. As you can see, currently the front locomotive is connected to the back locomotive. So when I actually get around to using the bedding mechanics in Streamlabs, that's the first one I have set up. The part that's going to be interesting is we have to find a place to shove this car. which is going to be a bit of a problem. Because I don't need this car. I need these cars. Alright, we need to slow down. Because even though I don't want this car, I don't want to break this car. Okay. Nope, not up there. Go there. Okay. Now, I got a feeling I can fit this over there by the acetylene cars. Alright. Because I don't need those cars. And there's a car length right there. Yeah, it can go right there. It'll be fine. It'll buff out. Unfortunately, both of those loads are going to the military base, so since there's not really anything valuable going that way, I'm not even going to bother with it. Really, the problem is neither one of these loads are particularly valuable. Like shunting the flat cars, loading them up with tractors and dumping them on an outbound track. That's nothing. Go over here, look at this. We have 17,000 kilograms with just these. I have this feeling that the tractors aren't going to be particularly heavy. Alright, all I gotta do is back up this one car and just shove it in here. But it doesn't want to do it. Perfect. Now it's just there. And all is right in the world. So we get past this switch, which the locomotives don't like. Hit the brakes, back it up. Now we just gently back up to those flat cars and make sure we didn't accidentally break anything. Nope, this car's good. This car's good. Acetylene's not shock sensitive. It's sensitive to like everything from a chemical perspective, but it's not shock sensitive. It's kind of weird like that. Let me get a drink real quick. Alright. Down here. They're going a little fast, but it'll be okay. There, now we're not going a little fast. And of course that somehow got messed up again. Alright, let's go under here. Down here by the pilot. Alright. So pop it into forward. And actually I gotta be over here because I need to flip the switch that's on this side. Alrighty. Alright, so now we gotta get these onto the loading track, shove some tractors on them, and we're golden. Now the thing is that I don't know how heavy the tractors are going to be. But that's not the only problem that we've got. We also have to get turned around. So probably what I'm going to have to do is drop this off on the outbound track that it's supposed to go to. And I can either turn around at the military base, or I could do the frustrating process of turning around at the roundhouse when I go to refuel. I'm thinking the military base is probably going to be the better option. Alright, what do we got? Those are little tractors. Alright, it's exactly the same. These are 17,000 kilograms, those are 17,000 kilograms. interesting because there isn't a through track on like the C section. You just go all the way through it. It's like you just pull through the inbound tracks, and that's just where you end up. The B track has a through line. That's what this is right here. Oh, that's gonna suck. Alright, these are going to the goods factory. It is the goods factory, right? Yeah, you might need to change things up a little bit if that's the case. Now, as they're going to the harbor, goods factory. You know what? That's actually seeming like a better option. Instead of going to the harbor, oh, that's not good. Okay. Gonna need a new plan. Because it turns out both of those are going to the goods factory. But instead of going to the harbor, we go to the goods factory. We're gonna go the same way, but you get the idea. Alright, so we're aligned to B. Literally, both of those are going to the goods factory, and these are going to the harbor. It's going to make it interesting. Because we can have one low-paying job going to the harbor, or we can have two low-paying jobs going to the goods factory instead. Either way, we're not getting paid and going to end up being disappointed, but we're here. This is where we are. Alright. And it's only been an hour and a half. Alright. So we're aligned with 4 out. And then the thing is, these are probably also the exact same weight. Is this 69 or 49? This is 69, and this is 49. Alright, so basically what's going to happen is it would probably be best to couple the tractors to these and just leave them coupled. And then we're going to mix things up a little bit when we get back to the steel mill. Because instead of going right around the steep curve to head to the harbor, we're going to go left and we're going to go through the steel mill. But the important thing to remember is that what we have to do, back these up, hook these cars up to these cars. They might fit, they might not. We'll have to wait and see. Then we're going to pull forward back into the military base, pull forward out of the military base, turn left, go over by the roundhouse, refuel, get everything, service the locomotives, then pull back out, back up onto the B track, pick up this section of cars with this section, pull forward, back up to those cars, pull forward again, back up to the caboose. And we can roll out of here. Really don't need to apply the brake because I know the track's going to do it for me. But as you can see, we still got 2 car lengths left to go. Alright, we're just going to auto couple. Save the trouble of having to deal with the track messing me up. Roll just a little bit farther. I'm trying a different playlist for the background music. So far, this one seems more fitting for what I'm doing. I think I might stick with this one. Alright. Good news is, this is where I left it. But this probably isn't. It didn't even wait to leave. It switched again. Yeah, at some point, I guess I need to set up the... Oh, I put it on the wrong one. It's got to go to B2, not B4. It has to be on that one. Alright. Alright, mess that up. No. No, no, no. Alright, messed that up. Alright, pull forward again. But yeah, I either need to play it on my... I need to play Derail Valley flat on the monitor. Or I need to set up the window to activate the pulls and betting things from the Streamlabs website. That way I can actually use the systems that I have set in place. And we're definitely not getting a speed bonus. Not after backing up to the wrong track. Now, after it gets over the bump, it takes off like a rocket. But it's really, really weird because it doesn't affect everything evenly. It, like, only affects, like, a specific car or maybe a locomotive. It's not evenly distributed. Like, if my trailing locomotive is having trouble getting over the invisible wall, the leading locomotive probably is not having those problems. Or if one specific car is having problems, it's probably not affecting the entire train. It's really weird because I cannot imagine that would be easy to diagnose or even fix, because it's not, like, consistent. It's like just a glitch or bug. I don't know why I thought it was going to 4. It very clearly says it's going to 2. Oh well. To be fair, they are both outbound tracks, but alright. Fingers crossed we can make it through this without any further problems. I do think I like this playlist better so far. And it's gonna fly off. Now that does not look like enough space for 5 cars, but we'll know soon enough. I mean, there's actually a slim chance it might just fit. No, it's not gonna just fit. It's got 2 car lengths. It was a nice thought. On the plus side, when we get turned around, it's now going to be slightly easier because we can back up to this one, back up to that one, back up to the caboose, and do it that way. It simplifies it a little bit. Alright, just a little farther. You can do it, little buddy. Alright, sweet. Lock that in place, sort of. Release this. Put that over there. Release that. Alright, and let's go over here, check our thing again. And it's back to front again. All right. Let's run over, turn this in. And at least that will be dealt with. Alright. And $4,000. No. Oh, great. Where did the... Okay. Where's the money? There it is. About to be very disappointed. Alright. Now we have the next step. Turning around the locomotives and getting them refueled. Let's go over here and make sure these are still within the tracks. They are. Alright, so at least we got that going for us. We need this one. And this one. Then we need to disconnect this from this. Alright, so at least this way those will be set in place. As we've said repeatedly, that is not what you do with those, but or that's not how that works, but it's what we've got. Alright, so the next option, or the next step, is we go out here past this switch up here. Yeah, this switch right here. And then we back up, back around that curve, back up to the gate of the military base, pull forward, make that left, go down to the roundhouse, and we'll back up the or use the leading locomotive to back up the trailing locomotive into the roundhouse, then pull forward, back it up. Honestly, we can back it up all the way to the cars that we need to couple to. And then we pull the lead locomotive out, refuel it, then bring it back around and hook it up to the trailing locomotive, and we start building our train. Easy day. Alright, let me get a drink real quick. Alright. Making progress. Alright, now we get around this corner. Cross this, past this switch over here. And we go right there. There we are. And then we'll have everything hooked up from the other end. But it's going to be a slightly bizarre, convoluted process because both locomotives do not fit in the roundhouse simultaneously. And definitely one of the biggest things that I'm looking forward to about the simulator update is multi-unit servicing. Because until I found out there were 3 places that you could repair multiple locomotives simultaneously, I hated it just for this part. Like, when you get done, you've got to break everything down, service everything individually, and then you got to put your toys away and clean everything up before you can stop. But then I found out that there are 3 places that you can go where you can fit 2 DE6s in the repair station simultaneously, so it's nothing to refuel them. But unfortunately, the machine factory is not one of those 3 places. And I will really quickly explain, or I'll show you why that is really quick. We just have to get up here ahead of the train. Alright, we gotta get to this switch right here. Alright, well, while that's moving, I can actually go over here and show you the roundhouse, and I can show you exactly what I mean by why we cannot put 2 locomotives in here simultaneously. You'll notice that the roundhouse is the same size as the one at the harbor, but one major difference. Here, the terminals are right here between that column and that column on this side. At the harbor, they're between that column and that column on this side. So the zone is right here. So if you want to have 2 getting refueled in close proximity, you just back up the first one until it, or you back up the trailing locomotive until it reaches about this point. You refuel it, and then you back it up to where it's almost touching the bumper, and you can refuel the leading one. But in this specific roundhouse, the zone is way back here, so you can't do that. You have to back up the rear locomotive all the way until it's touching here, and then there is not enough space even touching the buffer. You can't get the leading locomotive into that zone, so it just doesn't work. Huh. Well, there's 34 and 35. That's pretty cool. What is wrong with this picture? Oh no, it's right. Something just didn't look right. Like it looked like it wasn't lined up or something. I guess realistically there is an option that if I wanted to stop completely for the day, I could just put the second locomotive on this track temporarily while I refuel the first one. But the verdict's still out on whether or not I'm going to do it that way. Alright, that's probably going fast enough. It's probably the same as the harbor, and you don't want to go more than 20 over the turntable. It would be great if the turntable or the house for the turntable was actually like attached to the turntable. Oh yeah, see, the bell didn't even ring until it was all the way back here. And there is not enough space to get the front of, or get the back of the frontmost locomotive to that line. It just can't be done. So go up here, turn this off, kill that, and kill that. And let's turn this off for right now. Diesel, we've used about half. I still haven't gotten around to converting that into how much it is per gallon. Because at the present moment, diesel is not exactly cheap. 10 grand. At least the good news is we've made 10 grand. Alright, now go forward. Alright, now the part that's going to make it kind of suck is currently the rear locomotive is essentially dead weight. The part that kinda makes it suck a little bit is we're still causing wear and tear on the wheels specifically, but we're not doing anything to the engine or fuel. That's 38. What's this one? This is 4. Just locomotive 4. Alright, so we gotta make sure that we're well past the switch, so we don't worry about accidentally slamming into it with our other locomotive. So we go over here, and it's still back to front, so at least it's not moving right now. Oh, actually I can't use that at the moment. I have to use this. So let's put this away. Alright, so we gotta stand over here and watch as we pass the switch. Nope. I don't know what just happened there, but something went wrong. And now, we need to get back over here. Can't use that. I mean, I could, but I would just have to, I would have to pair it with this. And I just don't know if it's worth the effort. If that makes sense. Alright, nothing going on in chat at the moment. Okay, so kill the power, and let's refuel this one. Then we can run over, pay the environmental fees, and see how we're feeling from there. Barely did anything to the wheels. Engine's good. Alright, now we go over here, double check. Double check that we put this one into neutral. Did not. And now let's go pay some environmental fees. In theory, I could do it from the caboose. There it is. Okay. Alright, so all of that is taken care of. So more than likely what we're going to do is bring the locomotives back over here, get them hooked up to these. When they stop acting up and being weird. So hook up to these, pull forward, hook up to those, pull forward again, hook up to the caboose, and we'll get out of here. Actually, you know what? We're gonna have to change that up a little bit. Because here's the problem. I can leave those in the middle, but these and these are going to the goods factory. These are going to the farm. And since they all weigh the exact same amount, probably the best option would be to disconnect these. Pull these forward, hook them up to these, then pull all of those forward and hook them up to these, then pull everything forward again and hook them up to the caboose. Which the caboose is actually heavier than those by 17,000... 5,000 kilograms. So that might be a negligible difference. Or it might not be. Apparently the caboose is pretty sturdy, though. Alright, so as kind of a recap of what we've got going, or what we've accomplished so far, brought a section of cars from the harbor to the machine factory. We brought intermodal shipping containers filled with clothes, intermodal containers filled with acetylene, and empty car haulers. All came here to the machine factory. When we got here, found out that there weren't very many jobs available going in the direction that I want to go. So I ended up having to make do with what was available. So had to move a flat car And then I did a shunting job where I loaded these flat cars up with tractors and got them backed up over to here.
Grandma has to have surgery. She has the valve, the TAVR they put in is not the problem. She has another valve leaking very bad. They have to go take her down to Detroit. They can't do it at where she's at now. So I'm probably leaving tomorrow because Grandpa can no longer drive in construction in cities. And he knows that.
Getting to Detroit's going to be a problem.
Not for me.
Well, not for you, but for him.
Yeah, he can't do it. They're probably going to take her by ambulance. So I'm probably going to leave tomorrow to drive Grandpa back and forth because Grandpa can't come on her. Grandpa can't.
Right.
Gotta have surgery. And then, do you remember Paul Bardell?
Kind of.
His son was.
Okay. Sorry about that. Family things came up. But the bottom line is, got everything set up in such a way that we're going to take these and those up to the goods factory, which is on the other side of the map and north of the harbor. Not north of the harbor, north of the steel mill. And we're going to drop these off at the farm. So I can probably walk over, get those job booklets. There's almost no chance whatsoever that I'll get a speed bonus, but it is what it is. Alright, tractors going to farm. $8,000. Alright, this is not at all going to be worth the effort. But we're gonna make do. And while we're at it, we're also going to switch the location around to some of the things, because quite literally both sections of intermodal cars and the cut of tractors all weigh exactly the same amount. So I've got two options. I can either leave the caboose improperly at the back, or I could do it so that it looks right and put the caboose at the back of all of this, or I can hook my locomotives back up together and put the caboose behind the locomotives and then move those around so that the intermodal containers are up front and the tractors are at the back, and then that'll make things a little bit easier to deal with when I actually get to the farm to drop these off. Or I can do it so that it looks right and put the caboose at the back and then just have to clear it or figure out how to maneuver around it when I get to the farm, but risk a potential string line derailment. But the game doesn't necessarily work like that. So that'll be that'll be what I deal with on Friday. So, for now, this has been Derail Valley. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice day.